Thank you for waiting. We would now like to begin the CEO President Conference on consideration given to business integration. First, we'd like to introduce our executive attending, President and CEO Toshihiro Mibe. First, Mr. Mibe will explain about today's announcement, followed by Q&A. Mibe-san, please. And thank you for joining us today. I am Mibe. And thank you for coming despite the very short notice. Already, a news release has been issued earlier today, but I would like to take this opportunity to explain the content to you directly. On December 23rd last year, Honda signed an MOU with Nissan to start discussion on a possible business integration. And we have been continuing to consider this possibility. Despite the two companies having conducted extended discussions, we have now agreed to terminate the MOU and conclude discussions on a business integration. Today, official decisions were made through the Board of Directors meetings and resolutions at both companies. Also, based on this decision, Honda, Nissan, and Mitsubishi Motors Corporation today agreed to terminate the three companies' MOU. An official decision was made at the three companies' respective board meetings. And let me explain how and why we came to this conclusion. After signing and announcing the MOU, it became possible for Honda and Nissan to take actions and start formal discussions to consider business integration. However, as we conveyed at the December press conference, this discussion had just begun and no decision had been made on the integration. We held committee meetings established to prepare for potential integration, attended by top management and third-party stakeholders, and discussed the effects of the integration. If we could achieve integration extensively in not only vehicle platforms but also purchasing, R&D, and back-office divisions, we confirmed that there would be enormous benefits to be expected. However, at the same time, we reaffirmed that such an integration would require quick and decisive, painful decision-making. Originally, the MOU assumed we would achieve business integration through the establishment of a joint holding company. Through joint share transfer, both companies would become wholly owned subsidiaries of the holding company. We had agreed Honda would nominate the majority of directors along with the president and representative director of the joint holding company. However, we became concerned that when tough decisions needed to be made, having representatives from both companies on the board may require more discussion time and thereby slow down decision-making. Honda made a new proposal, therefore, to Nissan to execute the integration via a share exchange instead of a holding company. And the reason for the proposal was that it would enable early establishment of a unified one governance structure, which is considered top priority given the current business environment. Shortening the time for business integration would enable us to proceed swiftly and efficiently with PMI, post-merger integration. Either way, be it a joint holding company or share exchange, it was an obvious assumption that both companies would continue as operating companies and maintain their brands. As also in pursuit of functional integration, there would be various opportunities for Nissan employees to thrive. Therefore, we believe that the essential aspects remained unchanged.
In the meantime, we anticipated that our proposal of share exchanges will be quite a difficult decision for Nissan. And we considered that a possibility that, depending on the circumstances, the agreement might be withdrawn. However, a far greater concern could be the integration could progress so slowly that we would fall into a more serious situation in the future. To prevent that, we decided to make the proposal at this timing. Our proposal of the share exchanges represented Honda's strong determination and commitment to ensure the success of the business integration. At the time when we announced the signing of the MOU, we said that two companies would find a direction by the end of January. First, we believed that it was important to reach an agreement on the framework of this business integration, so we set a deadline with Nissan and continued our discussion, focusing on whether or not we can agree on this framework. However, as a result, we couldn't reach an agreement, and we decided to discontinue our discussions and considerations. We have seen some media reports speculating that we did not reach an agreement because Honda was not convinced with Nissan's turnaround plan, or the two companies could not agree on the share exchange ratio. However, those speculations are not true. The fact was that regarding the share exchange ratio, neither of the companies specifically presented a numeric ratio of the share exchanges. And Honda believed that discussions and negotiation would take place usually after we agree on the framework for business integration based on the results of the due diligence. And our understanding is that Nissan management team carefully considered the Honda proposal for integration through a share exchange in order for the early establishment of one governance structure to realize business integration, and then they came to the conclusion. Thus, we thought that two companies could not find the point of agreement for the realization of business integration. It was unfortunate we couldn't reach an agreement to take this step forward, the business integration. However, both companies could recognize that the collaboration by Nissan and Honda would bear a certain level of synergistic potential. However, through the discussion we had, we will continue the strategic partnership amongst three companies, including Mitsubishi Motors, which we have been proceeding with since we announced it in August last year. In doing so, we'd like to explore and execute plans for the upcoming era of electrification and intelligence technology. That is all. Thank you very much.
And thank you. Now we would like to proceed to Q&A. As we have informed you, we would like to take questions via Zoom. In the interest of time, we ask you to limit your questions to one per person. And when asking a question, please turn on your camera and microphone. Those of you who have questions, please use the press button function. Then the first question from Nikkei, Mr. Okinaga, please. Okinaga from Nikkei, can you hear me? Yes. Thank you. About your comment on having decided to discontinue talks on business integration, is there a possibility that you might resume talks? And also about the joint work on EVs, despite this, do you think that you can continue to create synergy together with Nissan? Thank you very much, Mr. Okinaga. Well, about my impression of this result, the fact that both sides were not able to find common ground and reach an agreement, as I said earlier, I do regret this. But as for the future, well, though it will not be in the form of business integration, but last year in August, on August 1st, we did reach an agreement on strategic partnership. So we did sign an MOU, and this is still valid. And therefore, based on this strategic partnership, within this scope, we would like to maximize our synergy effect. Of course, the synergy will be less than a business integration, but going forward, we would like to maximize the benefit from this strategic partnership. And Nissan, as well as Mitsubishi, the fact that we have entered this strategic partnership would mean that we can have in-depth discussions. And I think that we have already deepened our understanding amongst the three of us. And as strategic partners, though it'll be different from when we were talking about possible business integration, we want to maximize the effect so that we can come up with competitive cars and services in this new era of electrification. Okinaga-san, thank you very much.
Next question, Mr. Abe from TV Tokyo. Hello, Abe from TV Tokyo. Can you hear me? Yes, please. So earlier, Mr. Mibe talked about in order you had a commitment and a determination for the success of the business integration earlier, and eventually you couldn't find agreement between the two companies. However, in terms of the business integration with Nissan and your commitment and determination, has it gone altogether, or integrating Nissan businesses together? Do you still have that idea in mind, like an option of a TOB or other acquisition, for instance? Would that be a possibility? Of course, what we wanted to do eventually is to become competitive with our SDV upcoming cars and create businesses, including those upcoming models and so forth, and that is what we are aiming at. In that context, the transfer ratio, the holding company with the transfer of the shares, with that scheme, the holding company and operating companies like that. Of course, a holding company is a new company, and creating a governance structure, including all those entities, would take time and efforts. We thought more efforts we would need than we thought, and that was something we learned in the process of MOU discussions. And also, rather than what we anticipated to do in the first place, we realized that the cost of realizing that will be far more than we were anticipating. And the speed is important nowadays. And this is something I felt quite difficult, sense of difficulty. And I tried to explore the way out in order to resolve such speed problems, and eventually we thought we would require one governance structure. And then we came up with the idea of a business integration based on the share exchanges, which was our proposal eventually. But we were committed and determined to succeed in this integration. And the only way to realize that was the one governance structure and share exchange. scheme, and we thought those will be the best scheme to realize that, we thought. And then the point was whether or not we could agree on this point with Nissan, and if not, current framework of the strategic partnership will be pursued, trying to create as much synergy as possible, because we had already had a scenario of our own businesses alone, and we could brush it up, improve that in that context too. Therefore, hostile TOB sort of way in order to have this in our hand would not be really the choice. Rather than that, we want to become competitive with SDV and electrification era, and that was the priority. Therefore, we never really thought about a hostile TOB kind of option, and we have no such plans going forward either. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, please. Bloomberg, Inajima-san, please. Inajima from Bloomberg, can you hear me? Yes. Thank you. About the market capitalization difference, and also the president and a majority of directors on the joint holding company. Well, it seems that Honda was in the lead to begin with. I think that was apparent to begin with. But about this proposal to make Nissan a wholly owned subsidiary, I think this led to the breakdown of talks. But this proposal of making Nissan a subsidiary, do you think that this was a failure, or was that the only option that was available to you? If so, then I believe you won't have any regrets about that. What are your thoughts? Well, we did not reach an agreement on business integration, so I do regret the fact that it turned out to be this way. But because we had started out, it does not mean that we always are successful. Well, and I think that the share exchange was thought to be the best option available to us to achieve this goal of business integration. And as a risk, well, we had to think about the synergy after business integration, and we didn't want any hindrance to the decision-making of the management and the PMI. We didn't want the PMI to break down. There was quite a bit of risk that this could happen. That was our recognition, and in order to avoid that from happening, we had to make agile, speedy decision-making, bold decisions, and build a one governance structure, because we thought that that was the best means of reaching success. And therefore, the fact that we failed to achieve this goal, well, how we are going to try to fill in for that is something that we have to consider, and we have to think of our plan B, plan C. Well, we already had a scenario where we do it on our own, so including that possibility, we'll have to think about which option to adopt. And it's not just Nissan and Mitsubishi Motors, the three partners alliance, including that. We have to think about competitive products, business, and that we can realize in the new mobility society. Thank you. Thank you.
Next question from Mainichi Shimbun. Mr. Akimaru, please. Excuse me, no response. Therefore, let's move on to the next question, which is from Kyoto. Mr. Okuda, please. Can you hear me? Okuda from Kyoto. So, Mr. Mibe, you talked about a need for the scale merit or scale benefits. In that regard, now this integration plan is gone, and then instead of ANISA, you might require another partner, I suppose. And you talked about a three-party collaboration between Nissan and Mitsubishi, but other than them, is there a thinking about a possible partnership with someone else? Or recently, Honghai, Taiwan, is exploring a possibility of a collaboration with the Japanese manufacturers. And as Honda, is there idea about a possibility of partnership with the Honghai? Could you give us some input about it, please? So to start with a scale merit benefit. So by the business integration, I wouldn't say it is a merit. However, a three-party strategic partnership would give us a certain level of the scale benefit, I think. And at this moment, we have a various collaboration and considerations so forth with the GM still now. Therefore, not necessarily the specific automotive OEM. However, if we can anticipate a win-win relationship with someone else, we would like to explore such possibilities going forward. And the second question regarding the Honghai precision industry, we have no information at all. Rather, we are reading your reports from the journalism. So I've never really reported or announced or anything. No comments about it, please. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Okuda.
Next question. Momota-san, journalist, please. Momota speaking. Can you hear me? Yes. Please. About the government's involvement, when you were considering business integration and also your decision to terminate talks, and was there no involvement of the government? Because there are reports that the government has led this process, but if not, I think that your information might have been misinterpreted, leading to such news reports. Can you explain about this business integration consideration? Well, Nissan and Honda, the top management, I myself and President Uchida, the two of us have decided to start talks, and there was no involvement of the government there. Thank you.
Next question, weekly Toyo Keizai, Mr. Yokoyama, please. Yokoyama speaking from Toyo Keizai. Can you hear me? Yes, please. So, Mr. Mibe, In terms of the decision making, and you talked about a sense of urgency, and between the Nissan and yourself, were there a kind of differences of the speed, sense of speed, or sense of awareness, and were there difficulties you felt during the negotiation stage? So in terms of the decisions, so for the integration company, in the way we proposed, we would imagine members from Nissan, members from Honda will join in the integrated holding company. And of course, in that scheme, for that scheme, there are active discussions. And then the scheme is to have operating companies below that holding companies. And then communications between the operating companies and the difficulty of a PMI. Those are things we felt sort of difficult in terms of decisions for them. And if that is the feeling, then the speed would be the kind of a problem. We would feel a kind of sense of difficulty. And then, including that difficulty to be resolved, I would like to come up with one governance structure. I wouldn't say one Nissan or Honda having a slower decision making. It's not like that, but rather than that, the structure, the scheme of those companies' structures are very complicated. And in that process, we need to define our structures through the PMI, and that is quite complicated. In the meantime, if we are slow, things are changing outside with other EV manufacturers up in the market. And then from that speed, sort of a perspective, we shouldn't perhaps spend too much effort in just creating the structures of the companies. It's not that one of us is too slow in decision making. It is not that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question, please. NHK, Mr. Nishizono, please. Nishizono, can you hear me? Yes. Thank you. Well, you talked about speediness, and speed is critical now. But wasn't it possible for you to think about the so-called one governance structure from the very beginning? Wasn't there such an option? Well, when considering the possibility of business integration after the signing of the MOU, well, prior to the MOU, rather, with limited number of people involved, we could really not have a very in-depth discussion with Nissan. And because of that, including those people at the business front doing the practical work, we needed their input, and yet it was not possible to have them involved. And so after signing of the MOU, we were finally able to have an in-depth discussion. And therefore, we signed this MOU to start considering this possibility. This is a very sensitive issue, and therefore we did not want any information to be leaked, and we thought it was important to sign an MOU, and from there we started a full-fledged discussion. Now, having done that, well, the first, the joint holding company and transfer of shares, in the beginning, we were saying that we would hold the majority in the board, and also Honda would nominate the president. So Honda was thinking we could lead the process like that. Well, that was what we were thinking in the beginning. But as we proceeded with discussions, Well, and what we call the PMI, we came to understand that this will require a lot of time and effort when working out the details, and therefore these things were not put in the MOU, but we decided to make this proposal for a share exchange instead because of the need to be speedy at this time and age. And therefore, with the joint share transfer method, we could not keep up with the changes, the speediness. And therefore, we needed to be speedy and have competitive SDVs. And we thought that this structure would not function well for that objective. And therefore, instead, we made the proposal for share exchange. Well, you might say that we should have known that from the very beginning, but the answer is no. We were thinking that we could go ahead with the original proposal, but as we worked out the details, we thought that it was not enough, and therefore, we knew that it would be a very difficult decision on the part of Nissan, but despite that understanding, in order to bring this discussion to a success, we thought that this proposal was indispensable, and we made the proposal, but it did not work out. We could not reach an agreement. So as I have repeatedly said, I do regret this outcome. And of course, both sides have different views. We have to accept differences in opinion, and we have to think about what to do next.
Thank you. Unfortunately, because of the interest of time, I would like to now conclude the press conference by the President. Thank you very much for your participation today, indeed.